Page 26. We were talking about purifying one's actions, and we mentioned last week that there are extremes of religious people, and one extreme we were going to was a religious person who really only observes religion because of what will they say about me if I don't keep Shabbat? What will they say about me if I don't come to shul? And then the last example that he gives is almost ridiculous, and he says he undertakes extra prayers, prostrations, wears tzitzit, and tefillin constantly, so he'll be considered a chassid. You have to imagine that once upon a time, not everyone wore tzitziot. And that was considered something that only extremely righteous people did. The footnote here is having a really hard time with this. He's not sure what to do. How do you explain this to the modern day Jew? Don't be embarrassed. Tell Judaism like it is. Back in the day, not everybody wore tzitzit. What's embarrassing about that? So today, Maran says people should wear tzitzit. We wear tzitzit, fine. But let's not exaggerate what was. There are Rishonim that say that it's been hundreds and hundreds of years since a Jew in this town has worn tefillin. They're essentially Rishonim. Hundreds and hundreds of years. So, Baruch Hashem, today we live in a world where Jews wear tefillin. Shevach Le'el. Let's not pretend though that things were what they weren't. They weren't like
glasses,
that. Right, exactly. We look back at history. Oh, look, everybody in the shtetl was Rabbi Akiva Eger. That was not true. Not everybody in the shtetl was the Chavetz Chaim. They were just like today. You had people who were more observant and less observant, and more literate and less literate. We have the same problems. Look, he's talking about something that's so relevant today. That means the problems existed back then. The problem. What about these people who are trying to be more observant than everybody else? Did the Chachamim like them? Did they appreciate them? Did they appreciate their desire to? They're not doing these observances because they want to be closer to Hashem. The reason they're doing it is so other people will consider them holier than them, or more pious than them, or more religious than them.
There's a teacher who calls it spiritual materialism.
Very good. It's a good phrase. Spiritual materialism. He's learning Torah, says Rabbi Avraham, so other people will stand up for him. So Rabbi Avraham continues, Chachameinu zichonem livracha. Our sages called this derech hazeh, this road, yuhara, arrogance. Yuhara is even more than arrogance. It's kind of like a flamboyant, showing offness. But it comes from arrogance.
Showboating.
V'higbiluhu v'chashashu mipanav. Our rabbis were actually very afraid to speak about this. They called this amur chayeshinan livara. We suspect this person of arrogance, because what would such a person do if you told him he was arrogant? So instead they chose to use a phrase like, we suspect that he's arrogant.
Well, the first group is very common among Balei Tshuva.
Among all kinds of people. I don't know that it's just...
It's like, well, if I don't show up in shul, I won't be accepted. If I don't wear this stockings, I won't be accepted.
I think there's another extreme though. I think there's when I went to yeshiva, and I saw how hard did I have to work for it, from San Diego to get into yeshiva. Like to learn in night times and have teachers that would teach me Gemara and then to go fly out to take a test and wait till that letter came and they accepted me. And there were these guys that they didn't want to be there. They were only there because their parents made them. You don't have a choice to go to another school. You better go to this school or else. And it made me feel very, not upset. It was like sad. Here I thought I had gotten into this elite place, which for me it was, but for them they didn't even appreciate it. A person is they keep Shabbat. Not because they grew up keeping Shabbat. That's why they do Shabbat. They don't love Shabbat. It's not their favorite day of the week. It's not something they look forward to. They don't invite guests. For them, it's all about, okay, let's get through this day. We have to do it because our kids are in Jewish school or because our parents want to see us keeping Shabbat. It's a very sad level of observance, but you should know that in many different extremes, you might find this in the Baal Tshuva world, you might find this in a very religious world, where people are only doing a certain thing because that's the way they were raised. Actually, the option to break out and not keep Shabbat is just way too complicated. So they'd much rather do this and just live their own lifestyle privately. V'karu, they call oseh mitzvot b'ofen zeh, somebody who performs mitzvot this way, oseh haTorah shelo lishma. He who performs followers of the Torah, lo lishma. This word is not for its own sake, but for ulterior motives. V'lakatuv in the Tehillim it says sechel tov l'chol asehem. It says that those who perform the mitzvot, they're going to have a sechel tov, they're going to have a wisdom, like a good wisdom. Pirshu, they explain, la'osin, top of page 28, lishma, avalo la'osin shelo lishma. This only counts for those who do it without ulterior motives. But those who do it with ulterior motives, V'asin shelo lishma, noach lehem shelo nivra'u. Those who perform the Torah mitzvot are hypocrites, and it was better that they were not even created. It would have been better off unborn.
I would assume that there's a time factor because the Rambam says that you begin for a reward, but over time you hope that the person becomes more refined and they eventually do lishma.
Very good. Let me address that at the end of the sentence because it's a good point. Lomar she'elu hapgumim b'chanufa, to teach you that these people who are flawed with hypocrisy, lo yasigu klum mitoelet mitzvah. They will not accomplish anything with this mitzvah. Hillel, when you come back, do you mind bringing the tissue box to the table? Thank you. So Zev is bringing up a good point. The Rambam does mention a sentence, a famous teaching of the Rambam. If a person performs something out of an ulterior motive, eventually they'll reach a level of lishma, of holiness, of doing it for the right reason. The Rambam is mentioning it like a child. You tell the child, if you go to Bet Knesset, I'll give you a candy when you come home. Thank you. So, if the kid though he's 40 and married with 5 kids and he still is asking his parents for candies when he comes home, something is wrong with that education. The Rambam is talking about people who they have a choice to do this lishma, and their choice is specifically to do each other lishma. It's a hypocrisy. Our rabbis, the Kutzk Rebbe once said, Hashem prefers a rasha, an evil man who admits that he's a rasha, than a righteous person who refuses to admit that he does something wrong. He said, because Hashem doesn't want tzaddikim. He said, Hashem wants righteous people, wants genuine people. He said, and the evil person who is genuine is greater than the righteous person who is not. Famous teaching of the Kutzk Rebbe. This idea of who are you fooling? What act are you putting on? You dress this way, you walk this way. I was once in a cafe, I don't want to tell the name of the restaurant. I was in Yerushalayim, in a restaurant with my mother and my wife. Maybe my in-laws were there too, I don't remember. And there was this guy, a whole family of people that were sitting at the next table over. And this man kept backing his chair into my mom's arm. Like in a malicious fashion.
Like, this is my turf.
Like pushing him. And a few times he did, excuse me, can you please be careful? Excuse me, can you be careful? Like it took effort. It wasn't like their chairs were touching. It took effort to get his chair from where she was. And at a certain point she said, sir, why do you keep doing this? He said, she walk around with this shaitel. Who's not allowed to wear shaitels? Give her whole speaks and her head covering was not good enough. And that's why he should back his chair into her.
Well, that's very modest, isn't it?
Sure, very modest. Look at what he was looking at when he was in this restaurant. Yeah. Other people's head covering.
I'm glad you know.
So at this point, I reached my boiling point. And I stood up. I screamed at him. I told him, I don't understand. Why do you walk around with a kippah on your head? You're religious? A person like you is religious? I said, the Arab in the shuk is more religious than you. I said, take off your kippah. Take off your tzitzit. Come here. You don't have to keep kosher even. You can sit at this table. Why do you pretend to be a religious person? I said, you know what you do to the rest of us? Do you make the rest of us look like? The guy couldn't believe that somebody had ever spoken back to him in his life. He grumbled and mumbled and took his bill and he left. Some people, you have to tell them, you are a hypocrite. And you, of course, I appreciate a person who's struggling. There are people who struggle, like they're not there yet. They're still. This man's not struggling. He's reached a place where his entire Judaism is external. It hasn't refined him. It hasn't changed him. A person like this, you tell him, "I'm sorry, you're making us look bad. The Gemara says about you was better that you weren't born."
Would you say then that was a merit of Esau, that he was so blatantly honest in his evil?
It could be. It could be. You find HaShamayim, like Hashem, they're in our Tanakh. They were okay with being evil. Okay. And we don't consider that evil a good thing, Chalila. But there's certain. I'm not lying to you. Rabbi David Aaron once told me that the generation today, that it used to be people come to shul. They always had a basket of kippahs and dollies for people, doilies. What are they called? Doilies to put on their hair. They said today that people come to shul, they don't even want to wear a kippah. A little younger teenagers, I'm going to stay outside. He said those people are much more genuine. They're much more genuine than the generation before them. He said maybe they're less respectful. What they're telling you is, I really don't believe in this, so I'm not going to put on a show even for you. Even for God, I won't put on a show. I want you to take me the way I am. He said, whereas maybe they're lacking in the respect department, but in the genuine department, he said that first generation, he said you can never get through to them because they were always respecting you, but they never listened, they never wanted to change. So these are people who are genuine, they're seekers, they're telling you, I don't believe in this. So give me a good reason why I should put on my head, aside from being respectful in your house of God. There's something to be said about genuinity. Something to be said. Okay, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue this next paragraph tomorrow.